Hello and welcome to The Traveler's Void, a talk show where we'll just talk at each other for who knows how long at a time. We're going to be going over a bunch of topics, specifically ranging around Destiny 2 right now. I am Kobe. I am our quote-unquote PvE specialist with a smaller amount of PvP knowledge and a lot of things to say about it.
And I am Liana, and I am the person who spends too much time in PvP and bitches about the meta and where it stands, and the person who can tell numbers about anything and TTKs.
Hooray. Together, we're going to nerd out over numbers and stats for a while.
See if we can, learn you people a thing or two today.
Or at least provide some sort of insight.
Mm-hmm.
Our hot button topic of the week is the Trials cancellation that just recently happened. We're the Tuesday morning before reset, just after the most recent Trials reset, the March 1st reset.
Today would be so today is the 2nd of March of 2021, so this would be the reset coming up in about 7 hours, and we're going to talk about the win trading scandal that happened that has barred people from Trials this previous weekend.
Right. In doing my research on this, I felt like we needed to specify that because I saw, why was Trials canceled? And then there were several, entries from 2019, 2018, 2020. And I'm okay, so, probably should clarify right at the beginning. What I know of this whole situation is that it was was a win trading thing going on, something about the two Hake emblems and one not Hake emblem, and somehow both sides ended up getting a win out of that, even though what I heard was that one side quit after a round. I'm not sure the whole details on that. Do you have anything on any more detailed information?
That's pretty accurate. So I actually did play Trials before it was canceled this weekend, and your synopsis is pretty close. So basically, the win trading team, we'll call this Team A, would have two players with Hake emblems, and one player that did not have that Hake emblem. And I don't know the full setup of it, but how I know what it works is basically that they would sit in their spawn on the map, and then they would have the enemy team rush forward and kill them, and give 1 point to Team B. And then after the round had loaded into round 2 of Trials, they would leave. And through some form of matchmaking / I don't know the perfect details about it, but for some reason, doing that with network manipulation would cause Team A to get a win, and would cause Team B to get a win by default because the enemy team quit out. Okay. And it happened this weekend and last weekend. It was discovered last weekend, and then it was abused this weekend, and that's what caused the cancellation.
And I feel like the win trading thing has been a thing for a long time, because I've encountered these things back in the days of Call of Duty and Halo, back when I played those a lot. And it was never a giant issue in those because there was never anything else at stake. You couldn't get more than just numbers on your account. But whereas this, you could actually get stuff that would influence your performance in other areas of the game. The main draw for last week's was Igneous Hammer, and this week, last week's was not suspicious numbers because of Igneous Hammer, and this one was suspicious because it was just an armor piece. And to give an idea of what we're talking about with suspicious numbers is 50% of all players who played Trials went flawless. And of those players, 70% of them had 0 kills. And that's the big thing. And where we get that from is after Bungie announced that they closed it. I don't actually know the timeline of these events. Is it after Bungie closed it, or did Bungie close it in response?
I believe that the tweet that went out, that the tweet that you're referencing from Trials Report,
right,
came out I believe, before the cancellation, because I believe, if I recall, there's a tweet after that where they go, uh-oh, and it's a retweet of the
Okay.
Trials has been canceled for the rest of the weekend.
Okay.
Um,
So the Trials Report team saw those 50% figures and were a little suspicious considering the nature of what this week's reward was. So they looked into it, and that's where they found those. At some point during this discussion, we'll have had on screen the tweet in question.
and I will be willing to bet that, honest to God, Bungie probably did end up doing something because they ended up seeing that tweet. And to backtrack just a little bit about net limiting, it's interesting to note. So the Destiny 2 LFG, the PC LFG, which is the Discord server that everybody uses, actually updated their rule policy on the 12th of Feb this year. And basically in PvP, the things that they ban for are like across the map teleporting, infinite ammo, super grenades, infinite respawn, and speed hacking. But they don't ban net limiting. They don't ban game exploiting, net limiting, aimbotting, wall hacking, and none of that. So
Why are all those other specific hacks included in that, but not wall hacking? Oh,
so
excuse me. Oh, I bet you I know why. Because there's some things in the game that give you that, like Wish Ender and being in the Spectral Blade Super.
maybe I think the other thing is that in Destiny there's also a way to counter cheating like aimbotting and stuff like that. Right, as of right now, at least with 3-peaking, that is what you do in Trials when you're going up against an aimbot team or a wall hack team. But 3-peaking's going away, so we might see that rule change in the future at some point. What's really interesting to note, though, about that rule change real quick, and then going back to the issue with we'll go back to Trials and what's going on this weekend, is that net limiting is actually a bannable offense on the PvE side now.
Which is to say, manipulating your network in some way to force a certain encounter, a certain matchmaking to occur. It's not to say that if you on PlayStation change your clock back and you're just loaded into solo instances, that'll get you banned. That's probably not what's being talked about. It's more on the actual manipulating the packets being sent side of things.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. So net limiting, fixing lobbies is not a bannable offense. So for example, the people that change their regions, so they like put their region to like Nigeria, for example, there's no Nigerian servers, but if you take 6 Guardians and they all match to that region, and the chances of them actually getting into a match are much, much higher. And that's how the LFG server did mountaintop rigging to get mountaintop back in the day. That is still considered okay. The thing that they don't like in PvE is the ability to... It's kind of like lag switching. It's much different. It's a bit more complex. It's not just hitting a button and causing your game to lag. Basically, net limiting... imagine you have a highway, and that's your packets, right? And then by the push of a button, you go from a 6-lane highway to a 2-lane road.
Yeah.
And it just causes... In PvE, it can cause certain things. It causes multiple glitches in the raids, and I think that's probably why they do it. But going back to Trials and why it's important, because of the win trading and because of the fact that over 70% of players have 5 kills or less. That's the direct stat.
Yeah, it's 70% of players who went flawless.
Yeah, 70% of players who went flawless this weekend, which, by the way, was over 16,000 players, had less than 5 kills this week, which is huge. But the thing that should be talked about this isn't the fact that the win trading is happening. It's why it's happening.
Right. And I agree. While the win trading is absolutely a large issue, and it is definitely not a non-issue, I think the bigger issue at hand is more than several things. But the two biggest things are probably the just like rampant cheating all across all platforms, whether it be DDoSing on consoles or the actual hackers on PC, and and all of those are a symptom of the greater problem of the loot infrastructure for trials.
And I agree. Last with when Igneous Hammer Adept came up, I played 150 matches that week. So I played around 1,100 rounds of trials that weekend. And if you ask anyone who normally plays trials and goes flawless, like the people I all normally talk to, it felt like luck. Yeah. And that's a problem. Because when we have players
speaking as somebody who doesn't normally play trials regularly, it always feels like luck. But I can at least understand what you're saying when you say that.
Yeah, and there's other things that play into that too. It's not just trials as a game mode, but the amount of players that we're playing and the amount of cheaters, recoveries, and just everything that happened in that chaotic time, it didn't feel like it was actually slightly skill based to go flawless. It felt like complete luck.
Yeah. I mean, one of the people I initially heard about the trials cancellation from said that the first 4 matches they played were all against cheaters on PC.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised that it's a little chaotic. And really to see the follow-up last night of Bungie re-enabling the ability to go to the lighthouse if you had a flawless card that had not been turned in and a token set to turn in, I feel like that's probably not a good thing to have done.
It doesn't fix the problem. If people win traded and then didn't go to the lighthouse, and now you're giving them the ability to go to the lighthouse, you didn't fix the problem.
Right.
You stopped it. Don't get me wrong. You're gonna have no more players win trading from this point forward, but you still have all those rewards you have to catch back up on. And honest to God, the only thing that matters this week that's in the reward pool is the Adept mod that players are gonna get.
And that would be the major thing for me to attempt to seek for the future from the GMs that are about to open up in about 2 weeks, and the coming announcement of master difficulty dungeons and raids, where adept raid and dungeon gear will inevitably be coming from. It's kind of painful to not be able to get those adept mods, but we'll be able to have an adept weapon shortly if the GM Nightfalls don't drop them. It's just like, how am I supposed to get those mods when I cannot regularly go flawless? Hell, I can barely go 3 wins, and that's part of the major reason why I don't play trials, is I don't think I can get anything from it. It's a matter of I'm in that weird kind of skill gray area in PvP where I'm better than like the lower 50% of players, but I'm worse than the upper 40.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit, because Trials has a lot of issues there.
I suppose I should clarify what I mean by that, by those upper percentages. I have an approximately 1.0 KD. I go approximately 1 kill for 1 death, which is better than most people, but worse than a lot. So I'm not anything special, but I'm also not Mr. Trashman who can't even play PvP, who doesn't know how to shoot the head.
As far as stats go, there can be misleading, because the problem is with stats is the longer you play, the harder it is to improve them.
Right. The more information you have, the more accurate it is to what your real skill is. But if you're constantly improving, it lags behind you.
It's a problem that will obviously forever be a thing. It's just how it works out, unfortunately.
Right. That is the issue with retroactive stat tracking after things have been done. But there's not really any other option.
Mm-mm. So, going back to Trials, I think we both agree on what I'm about to say, which is there's 2 core issues with Trials. And that's loot and skill creep.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we should start with skill creep, because I feel like that's a much broader topic.
Skill creep as a term to use here is the fact that the the players who can play and participate in trials are supposed to be the end game PvP players. The problem with that is that number of people who continue to participate shrinks, and the skill of those players, because it shrinks, gets higher and higher, making the barrier for entry for anybody not already in that bracket harder and harder to get into.
That is skill creep. So basically, if you are not aware, Trials runs off of a card-based matchmaking system. So the brackets are set up at 0, 1 to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 7, and flawless. Those are the brackets. And basically what the game does that makes it such a problem is that if you go flawless, there is no separate flawless bracket that the player gets tossed into. It goes purely off the wins on the card.
There's no this player went flawless on previous cards. So on these ones they're 7+ win.
Yeah, and it to clarify, there's nothing confirming or denying that there is not a flawless bracket. It just feels like there isn't a flawless bracket. There might be, but it definitely does not feel like that, because I have gone flawless in a week and then gone and played and gone against absolute amazing teams and absolute trash can teams. It's what makes trials feel random.
I can confirm, being on the receiving end of that, you can absolutely match from 0 wins against somebody who's just recently gone flawless. I have during Solstice of Heroes was my major experience against Trials in its recent form. I played Trials of the 9. I actually played Trials of the 9 quite a bit and managed to get a 7-win card, but not flawless.
Trials of the 9 was fun.
I agree, but it was a totally different meta at the time. Double primaries and basically no special existed.
Yeah.
The experience that I had during Solstice of Heroes was god awful. I think to get the 7 wins that I needed for the boots glow that I don't even use, I think I needed to play a total of like 21 matches, and this was back during the season it was introduced.
Oh god, Season of the Worthy Trials is bad. So skill creep, if it's not evident why this is a bad thing, basically let me pose it this way. Let's say you have 3 players. You have myself, you have KOB, and you have a random third player. Let's say I go flawless every weekend. KOB can average 3 wins every weekend, and that this random player cannot get a single win. So the problem that we are going to have is that there's nothing preventing me from my first match of my card matching against that player that can't get a win. And I'll stomp them. And the problem with that is that discourages them from playing, because they're getting absolutely stomped every match they play. So they leave. The problem is now that the player base of your 0 to 1 win bracket is diminished. So now the players that normally could easily get 3 wins are going to get kicked down to your 0 to 1 bracket, because you're going to have all the people in the brackets shift. And this is the problem. This has been a thing since Season of the Worthy. We are now in Season of the Chosen. We are now in Season 13?
Right. Season 13 is the current active season, and I believe Worthy was 10?
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, Worthy, Arrivals, Beyond Light, and then this season. So this now has been going on for roughly a year.
Just about. Just shy of a year.
Just shy of a year. So now, basically what this has come down to is your players who could go flawless pretty consistently and Worthy might be down to your 0 to 1 skill bracket now, because of the amount of skill creep that's shifted. So some players ask, well, how do you even fix this? This sounds like a problem that's in tune with the game. And there's quite a few options. First of all, if you go flawless that week, kick that person into a flawless skill bracket. Even if they're the only person in the fire team that's gone flawless that week, kick them into a flawless skill bracket.
Right, and that actually comes to another point that is a point of issue for matchmaking within Trials, is it's based off of whoever launches its card. So you can have 2 members in your fire team who are on their 6 wins, 1 more win for flawless. The fire team leader resets their card and gets a 0 win, and they matchmake as though they had 0 wins.
And that's a problem as well.
Right.
It should, in my opinion, it should be based off the average amount of wins across the fire team. So if you have a 7, if you have a 6, a 4, and a 2, you should be aiming for the 3 to 5 bracket.
Correct.
That would be, in my opinion, the best option.
Yeah.
But so we have this idea of kicking players to a flawless bracket. So you have those players that have gone flawless in their own bracket. In my opinion, if you're running a confidence passage, you should be going up against players that are running confidence passages only.
Remind me what confidence passage does.
So the confidence passage is what you get after you go flawless that weekend. It's what allows you to get your second reward from the flawless chest if you go flawless again.
Oh, okay.
So basically, they've already gone flawless once that week. So basically, what that would do is that if confidence passage players could only match up with confidence passage players, it's people that have already gone flawless that week only matching up against players that have already gone flawless that week for their second flawless.
Okay. And yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because that card is already +1 flawless at least.
Another thing that Bungie really needs to look at is trials can no longer be card-based matchmaking. It will kill the game mode.
I think they tried skill-based matchmaking for a little while in general PvP, like Control and all those other things that are not necessarily directly competitive or endgame, and it seemed like it worked, but their concern was the fact that most games felt like that game where it's like where you're getting pushed against the wall of your skill ceiling and not able to have a fun time on the receiving end of that because it consistently matched you with people who were about as good as you.
Yeah, that is a thing, don't get me wrong. But if there's one game mode that should be pushing you against the wall of your skill ceiling, it should be your endgame PvP game mode.
It should be trials.
It constantly. Yeah, it makes your players get better. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So, Bungie, honest to God, if you want to fix trials, it probably should be based off an elo system and a card system. So, if you're going to have players, I highly recommend an elo system first. But if you're going to have players that are on 0 wins trying out trials for the first time, say you have an elo bracket, I believe elo runs from 0 to 2,500 if I recall.
I don't remember.
It might be 0. It depends on the game, the scale. It can get all wacky. But let's say we have an elo bracket from 0 to 2,500. Say that a brand new player starts at 1,000. Okay? If you have someone who's top 500, which I've seen this happen, if you have people that are top 500 matching with players who are playing their first ever match of trials, they're not going to come back. No. So having this elo-based matchmaking where you have people that go flawless every weekend, going up against players who go flawless every weekend, does help. Now, the other thing that this would do is this would show you who your cheaters are. Because their elo would kick them up into a super high bracket. So you're going to have very, very good players going up against cheaters.
And
but
the
you're
very
also
good
going to
players
have...
will absolutely catch the cheaters.
Exactly. So you're going to have your players who are the most experienced giving you reports and playing against your cheaters. And eventually, if they get to a high enough elo, you'll have cheaters versus cheaters, and then you can do better for ban control.
Yeah.
This is the basic premise of an elo system. This is why elo system works, even though elo is a system that was originally made for chess.
I was gonna say elo is initially something designed for a 1v1 and doesn't translate well to a 3v3 or a 6v6 scenario.
It doesn't in most scenarios. You would think, why would elo work? But the beauty of elo is that it works in those situations, and in trials, that right now, in my opinion, would be the most important thing. Bungie could look at doing an MMR system instead of an elo system.
Clarify MMR.
So there's multiple ways that competitive FPS games do rank. There's elo, which is a system that's based off of chess, and there's MMR. MMR is I don't remember the first game that ever used MMR. I believe it was Halo, but it might be other games. I can't remember. Basically, any FPS game.
I think Halo did use it because that was the basis of your going up and down in rank in going and playing the competitive modes in the multiplayer.
MMR, I can't remember what the acronym stands for off the top of my head. MMR is another way of doing skill-based matchmaking. And basically what it is instead of doing it based off of a one-on-one scale like Elo, it's on a team versus team scale. So games like Overwatch typically try to use an MMR system because those games are a lot more team focused. So Elo works in a game like Halo. MMR looks in a game like Halo because you have team-based combat for all of your game modes. You don't have one-on-one situations that dictate matches. That's what Elo is usually used for. So whether they use an Elo system or an MMR system, it's going to be an improvement from the card-based matchmaking we have now.
MMR, by the way, stands for matchmaking rating.
Matchmaking rating, that's what it is. So, the other thing that should be prioritized, Bungie, I don't know why this hasn't been done yet, there needs to be region logs. And if that requires the use of dedicated servers, then let that happen. But there needs to be, like, regional barriers that don't get crossed unless absolutely necessary.
I think the thing with dedicated servers is that it's prohibitively expensive on Bungie's part to keep them running in most scenarios, but
Bungie just doubled their headquarters.
yeah, I was gonna say they just did spend a bunch of money on expanding their space.
Actually, it wasn't even a double. It was their new headquarters is 2.5 times bigger than their old one, so it's more than double.
And they're not even able to use it right now.
That is because Bungie is working on a new IP, but they also said they're increasing the size of the Destiny team. So my personal opinion is dedicated servers will come with crossplay.
I think they would honestly have to if that's gonna happen.
Yeah, whole new topic for a whole nother episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That one's gonna be down the line, probably much closer to crossplay.
Much closer to crossplay. But that is the issue. That is a good enough discussion on that is an issue with the issue with skill creep.
Right.
Now let's talk about the other big issue Trials has.
Loot.
So, Trials saw record player rates when Igneous Hammer Adept popped up. Record rates. Highest it's ever had in Destiny 2.
And that's because the Igneous Hammer is a 120 hand cannon, which in the current moment is in the meta, and it is also the only source for that gun currently. Like that flawless reward, that Adept Igneous Hammer, is the only time it's been available yet.
Yeah, we don't have Igneous Hammer base as of yet. So, the funny thing is that after people started getting it, it's just bottom dollar with a different reticle and 2 points somewhere else or something like that. So don't feel like you have to go farm out an Adept version. Please don't. Don't bang your head against the wall unless you want to.
Bottom dollar is absolutely just as good because it's also another 120 hand cannon and comes from Gambit. Yeah, it's a bit of a grind, but they'll hopefully be looking at that drop rate soon, and we'll probably talk about that closer to the time that it's been actually adjusted.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get closer. So loot has been an issue in Trials for the entirety of Destiny 2. Destiny 1, it wasn't really an issue. I will say that. Destiny 2, it's definitely been a major issue. I blame it personally on the token system. And I don't think any player you ask would ever disagree with that.
I disagree with that, just to be contrarian.
Thanks, I'm glad.
You're welcome.
The token system is the
main problem. I don't actually disagree with that.
The token system from Trials of the 9 and forward, plus loot lockout. We can talk about both of those. But let's talk about this week's loot. So this week's loot, there is no Adept weapon. For those of you that don't play a lot of Trials, the Adept weapons are on bi-weekly rotations. So next week, when Trials is maybe re-enabled, we would have an Adept weapon up. And it could be any Adept weapon that's currently in the pool.
Which is Astral Horizon, the Messenger, Igneous Hammer, which it won't be Igneous Hammer again.
No, Exile's Curse, Tomorrow's Answer.
Eye of Soul has been sunset, right?
Eye of Soul is no longer in there. Summoner is no longer in there.
Okay. Is that because those two have been sunset now because Season of the Worthy stuff. No, Season of the Worthy stuff is still inactive. Is still active because
Season of the
Fellwinters still
Worthy stuff.
exists.
Yeah,
It's just they
Season of the
cycled it
Worthy
out.
stuff. Exactly, that's what it was. So the weapons that are creating problems, if you will, or the weapons that are too strong, get kicked out of the adept pool first. So Summoner and Eye of Soul being the two, if I recall correctly, the two most farmed adepts so far got kicked out because Bungie's reasoning is that players have had their chance to farm them and they're the most farmed, so people probably got the rolls they want. And then the other form of balance that they do is perk pool changes. So the Astral Horizon Adept cannot have the God roll that the Worthy one has or anything like that. It's a completely different setup.
Yeah.
But the issue is the token system. So you get no tokens for losing. Let's start there.
Oh, you don't. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't get anything for losing at all. I remember that.
If you lose your trials match, you get absolutely nothing.
Which is kind of a problem.
Let's talk about another game mode. Another end game PvP game mode, Iron Banner. If you lose an Iron Banner match, you get 3 tokens.
If you're listening to this, you're probably familiar with these things, but just in case, the difference between Trials of Osiris and Iron Banner is that it's the 3v3 Trials setup versus the 6v6 everywhere else setup.
Exactly.
Iron Banner is your 6v6 endgame PvP. And Trials is your 3v3 endgame PvP. Just figured I'd clarify that in case anybody listening to this isn't familiar, because
if you're not super familiar with this trash heap, wonderful game that we play called Destiny 2. It can be a shit show sometimes, but Trials doesn't give any reward for players losing, which means that players that are bad at the game mode have no incentive to get better. Because you could argue that the incentive is, you get a reward finally, but you get 1 token for a win.
Oh, you only get 1 for the win?
The reason why Trials tokens work and the reason why people can get engrams is because of bounties.
Oh shit!
That's what gives you Trials tokens.
You can tell I haven't played enough Trials to have not noticed that the wins gave 1 token.
Yeah, so you get 5 tokens per 2 weekly bounties, and then the repeatables give 2. So your repeatable bounties are already giving more tokens than winning.
Jesus Christ.
And bounties can be done by losing. The issue there is that Bungie has a lockout system, and you cannot get the engram until you get 3 wins. So you have to actually try.
Right. The trials.
Yeah. The problem is that new players don't have incentive to get better, and old players reap all the rewards.
This is very much a rich get richer sentiment that has been felt and been there since the introduction of Trials of Osiris back in Season of the Worthy. But it also kind of... we
want to get it right.
Yeah. It brings to my mind the thing I noticed this season with Valor and Infamy is that if you're on a winning streak with Valor, you're getting like 35 a win at the 5 win. But if you lose while you're on that 5 win or a 30 win streak, who cares? It doesn't matter once you go over 5. It only keeps track of 5. If you lose that one, you go back down to earning the same Valor as though you had no streak at all or anything at all. You go back down to 10. And it's not incentivizing losing to give you a reward on losing as long as the winning reward is greater.
Bungie is really, really afraid, especially for their endgame PvP game modes of Trials and Iron Banner. Bungie's really afraid of having a AFK farm.
Yeah.
The problem is that doesn't work.
Right.
There is no AFK farm that would ever work reliably. And the thing is so let's assume that in Trials of Osiris you can open engrams without having to do 3 wins. And that that we have a fire team that only ever gets 3 wins. They're getting 1 reward per week.
Yeah. Ever.
They're getting 1 reward per week, and then they can farm as many bounties as they want. But they're getting 2. If they do the weekly bounty to get their reward, and if they do their 3-win, they're getting 2 rewards, and it's the same thing rolled twice. So they're getting one thing 2 times. Here, so if someone wants to play in Trials, there is 5 pieces of armor, and there is Igneous, Messenger, Summoner. Igneous, Messenger, Astral, Exiles, Tomorrow's Answer, and Sola's Scar. There's 6 weapons. There's 11 items in the Trials loot pool right now. If someone wants to spend 11 weeks, not accounting for duplicates, right? In a perfect world, 11 weeks, which is nearly a season. If someone wants to farm all that out, that shouldn't be punished.
Right. And assuming they introduced a loss reward and increased the win reward, the system they have in place right now is already very anti-AFK. You're kicked if you don't move at all after a minute and a half, which is like
1 round,
2 rounds almost. If the whole team is AFK.
Yeah.
And you get no rewards if you were not able to secure a kill during the game.
Yep.
And this applies to any PvP mode. Outside of Trials, if you cannot manage to score a kill, and this is more likely than you would think, if you cannot manage to score a kill, you don't get any rewards. No blues, no legendaries, no tokens, no valor progress, even if you lost or won the game. Nothing. And I encountered this while not being AFK, while doing Showdown the other week when they had that weekly challenge up. I was like, alright, I'm losing this match super hard because the other team is, it's midweek, they're trying to get their Trials fix, and this is Trials Light. So I threw the game. I threw real hard, ran at the enemy, and just died. And I was by no means AFK. I was just looking at the ground or looking at the sky and running at the enemy. I got nothing for my time.
Looking at something like Iron Banner real quick. Iron Banner gives the play. If you do all 4 of your banner bounties, which most people will, you get 4 pieces of gear, Pinnacle.
Right.
And you get 200 tokens.
The 4 Pinnacle pieces of gear, though, run into another problem. Because you can get 4 of the same piece, which is, again, the same issue. I got 3 this week. I got 3 chest plates this week.
There is no knockout system. I mean, that is bad luck, unfortunately. Yeah. But going back to Trials loot. So, how do you fix it? Give people that lose a reward. And it can't just be 1 token. No one's going to sit there and want to lose 20 times just to get 1 item. Give people a chance to earn items. Now, the other thing that Bungie could look at doing is that adepts are not tied behind going flawless, which when I say this, people are going to be like, what's the point? Adepts, let's look at something like Grandmasters, which will have adepts coming soon. You can die in a Grandmaster. Like, that's not a problem. You have revives, you have teamwork, you have many different builds that work. You have PvE strikes. It's the same thing every time. It's consistent. That right there is what makes adepts work. It's consistent. The strike never changes. The champions never change. Where they spawn never changes. The modifiers never change. It's consistent. In that formula... strike. Exactly. In that formula, an adept weapon makes sense. In Trials, it's random every time. And not always in your favor. Cheaters, recovs, we've talked about all this already. Yeah. That is something that the average player has to look at. And that right there can kill a Trials card. And that can kill an adept weapon. Right. What Bungie should do, in quotation marks, is that the adept weapon should be given out either at 7 wins or for 200 tokens.
200 tokens being assuming you only did the do once per week bounties, you get 20 tokens from that?
If it's going off of the current system, you would get at the most in one run 40 to 45 tokens.
Okay. Assuming you didn't win. Or is that assuming wins? Is that assuming a 7-win, but not necessarily flawless?
Yeah, that's assuming a perfect card.
Okay.
Like, except for the fact that you didn't go flawless. Like, if we're gonna throw in that, like, it's 7 wins, but you have 2 losses on the way, and you've probably reset your card like 3 times to get there, you might have like closer to 60 or so tokens. That's still like, you still gotta do that 3 more times in a pinch to get that weapon.
Yeah, you got to do that three further times, and I think being able to go and God, I mean, that's just assuming the bare minimum where you played 9 games to get 7 wins. You're looking at playing close to 30 to 40 matches just to get the weapon once, and that seems fairly reasonable.
And think about this: adept weapons aren't in your engram pool. So it's one chance if you don't go flawless, right? 1 chance per week. Now, some people would say this is something that would allow the rich to get richer. You only get 1 per week. If you get 7 wins, you get another one. So it rewards you for getting 7 wins. If you go flawless, you don't get a 3rd one. You get an extra adept mod.
The current system is broken. It's not working as it should be, but the current system is every flawless you go, you get another roll at the adept weapon. Currently it's broken where consecutive flawlesses don't reward you, and the workaround for that right now is deleting a character and going flawless again on a fresh character.
Which, when we say that, some people go, that's crazy, who would do that? And we go, there are people.
There are more people than you would think. I am not one of those people.
So if Bungie does this type of system, it would allow players that aren't good at trials. The other thing, stop making trials tokens, delete every weekend. Every weekly refresh. Bungie, I don't know why, it's the only token in the game that does this. Bungie feels like it's a bad idea to let trials tokens stack up over time. It doesn't change the loot.
No,
it's not going to change
at all.
Whether a player farms out 20 engrams and opens them as they get them, or farms up the tokens and gets 20 engrams all at once, the amount of loot they get has not changed. I think it's because Bungie doesn't want players to get new items right off the bat, but you can't do that anyway with the Trials engram because you have to go earn it first.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers of we don't want players to be rewarded for not playing, and all of those layers enact together to make a not-so-great experience.
Like, it makes no sense, basically.
Yeah.
So, let players keep their tokens, let them farm towards an adept weapon and an adept mod, and let the people that go flawless give them, let's say, 3 Ascendant Shards, and you get 1 for 7 wins, so you get 4. And if you do a Confidence Passage, you can get another 3, and another 1 for your 7. So you get 8 total per trials per week. Some people might say that's too much. I call bullshit. You can farm 20, 30, 40, 50 in a week off Grandmaster Double.
I was going to say 4 sounds like a lot from one activity, but at the same time, who is dictating what this masterwork material economy is when it's only for armor and you're only ever going to use 6 at a time for a given amount of time that your armor you're wearing, and with sunsetting going away, you're going to do it once.
8 Ascendant Shards is 2 exotics and 2 legendary pieces.
This is for people who, don't already have the entire exotic pool.
Exactly.
So I suppose there's more incentive there. Is the Ascendant Shards are useful for those who don't already have all of the exotics, like you or I.
It gives PvP players a reason to go. It gives PvP players a way to get endgame materials without having to play PvE.
Yeah.
Because in Trials, you get 2 as of current. If you go flawless twice, 1 normal and 1 confidence passage, you get 2 Ascendant Shards. Say you do that on all 3 characters, that's 6 shards. A PvE player could get 3 times that amount in a day on double GM week.
Assuming that they are actually a high-end PvP player and an endgame PvP player, not the middle ground where most people fall. Able to do a raid, but not the best at it. Having
Exactly. This is
LFG
just,
all the time for things.
we're talking about ends of the spectrums here. We're not talking about mid grounds.
Yeah.
But that right there is the two big problems with trials. Loot, we've talked about how to fix it. Skill creep, we've talked about how we feel like we can fix it. But
I think a problem is like if they're going to be introducing adept mods, adept weapons, soon to grandmasters. And the problem I have with that is currently the only thing we know that's going to come from those in addition is Adept Vorpal, and that's going to be the only PvE earnable Adept mod in the game that is only going to be usable on weapons that don't even have things that synergize with the the Adept boss spec or Adept whatever the thing is. It's going to be the boss damage mod, but we're not going to have any weapons that would be good to use that on, because the PvP ones don't have any perks for dealing boss damage, and the PvE ones are bad at it, because it's two primary ammo ones, and an LMG.
Real quick. Tomorrow's answer could actually probably set up for a good boss damage, because I think he can roll Lasting Impression and Impulse.
So that's a weapon this season introduced.
This season. So there's one weapon that would work, but that doesn't. I'm not excusing it. Don't think that like I'm like this justifies all of it.
Yeah.
But well, there's solos too, but.
But there are seriously so many bosses right now that have "Don't Sword Me" aura. Looking at you, Tanix.
I'm gonna kill Tanix with nothing but adept solas and a fire team, in a 12-person fire team. You watch.
You can do it. You can just do it with Black Talon as is right now.
But, the thing that is worrying about the adept mods potentially not dropping from PvE content, and the basis for this claim, real quick, is Light.gg has all of the mods in their pool, and the only one that claims to not drop from a flawless chest is Adept Big One spec, which is Adept Vorpal. All the rest say that they're tied to going flawless and opening this chest. This doesn't mean that that's set in stone. That's just the only thing we have as of current to go off of. We will obviously know on the 16th when people start farming Grandmasters. But that also doesn't fix the issue of, in PvE, there is no Adept special. Not a one. In Trials, there's 2. In Trials, this is another thing in my opinion. If we're gonna do adept weapons, they have to be equal. In Trials, there's 2 specials, 2 primaries, and 2 heavies. All of those have adepts. Yeah. There's 2 primaries and 1 heavy in PvE.
And I think the reason they chose to introduce those was those specific 3 is the nostalgia factor for one. Oh boy, Shadow Price, Palindrome, and the Swarm are back. But also, they didn't want to dilute the pool right away. But at the same time, they're keeping it on a weekly rotation where this week you can get the Swarm, next week you'll get Shadow Price again, and then the following week it'll be Palindrome, and then Swarm again. And those rotations are going to continue to match up with the GMs, I think. So with Grandmaster Nightfalls, you'll get, on the first week, you'll be able to get Palindrome Adept. Actually kind of scary. I didn't realize that until just now.
Oh, shit. Oh, God. That's going to be the week they put Adept Messenger up, too. Mark my words.
Well, next week is a weapon. Right?
If Trials can be played.
Assuming Trials can be played, that'll be a weapon.
You're right.
You're right. It will line up with a weapon. You are right. It will line up with a weapon there. Because this coming weekend is weapon. The following weekend is armor, and then the weekend of the weekly reset starting on the 16th is going to be a weapon again.
That's the problem. It could be Adept Solas, it could be Adept anything, we don't know. We'll obviously have to wait and see till we get there. But
I think personally that Adept mods would be fine to be in the endgame Vanguard pools, specifically like Grandmaster Nightfalls and the announced eventually coming Master Raids and Dungeons. And whatever other master level content that they introduced, I don't know about Lost Sectors.
If we're gonna get like if we're gonna get, like, for example, Vogue's coming back,
Right.
And if we're gonna get a master version of Vogue, and that's gonna give us the exotic versions, which were called adepts, mind you, back in the day. See where I'm going with this? If we can get, for example, like an adept Fatebringer with it, like adept Dragonfly spec, or like an adept Hez and Vengeance with adept big ones, that might be worth it. But that's something we're looking at now, months from now, and Bungie hasn't said anything about that being a thing.
Right. They just have said that they want to introduce adept raid gear and a master difficulty. I don't think they necessarily included them like master difficulty and adept at the same time. I think they just mentioned those kind of as a thought in a sentence together. So I don't know if necessarily master difficulty end game content is going to be the thing they introduce the adept things in, but I wouldn't have a problem with that. Deepstone Crypt gets a very interesting reputation in the community of being an easy raid, and the problem is that it's not an easy raid, it's a mechanically complex with very little combat, and that makes it seem easy. Because you have to do the mechanics rather than actually shoot the thing.
I think you mean the mechanics.
Whatever. It's kind of like doing Last Wish, but the whole raid is Shirochi.
Yeah. But getting back to finishing where we are with Trials real quick.
Correct.
One thing that they could do is kick the adept weapons over to Iron Banner, and that's where I want to transition to real quick. Is Iron Banner is if we were to do that. Now, I'm not saying that they have to be adept Iron Banner weapons. I don't necessarily want. I don't get this whole idea of adept weapons being locked behind a faction. I get it in part, but also part of Bungie's decisions don't make sense to me, because Shadow Price and Swarm are Vanguard weapons from Destiny 1, but Palindrome's a PvP hand cannon?
Yeah. And it's back in full Vanguard regalia. It's even got, like, the V on it.
So obviously Bungie doesn't mind crossing shit like this. So fuck it, put the Trials weapons up in Iron Banner every now and again. Let it happen. Not like the normal ones, but let the Adepts go up in there. Make it a fucking quest like Xur does every week, where Xenealogy, where you get a fucking exotic cipher every week. Put a quest up like that.
I would say not introduce the Trials weapons directly. Introduce an Iron Banner themed equivalent.
I'd be down.
Because that way the aesthetic
instead of the
changes.
Eye of Soul, instead of the Eye of Soul, you want an adept Aphrodite spear.
Right, exactly.
Got you.
With a similar but not necessarily identical stat spread and perk pool.
I'm down.
Yeah, I mean that seems like the way to do it, because then the Trials people still get their heinously ugly Assyrian Eye aesthetic.
Don't you judge my aesthetic.
And then the Iron Banner people get their wolf and tree aesthetic.
Yeah, those fucking heathens.
Which is neither ugly nor particularly good looking, if you ask me.
Let's talk about Iron Banner's loot for a little bit. Let's talk about the other in-game PvP loot here for a second. So I want to ask you, as someone, Iron Banner is something you actually play.
Yes, Iron Banner is something I do tend to play fairly regularly. Not every time that it's around. Sometimes I'll skip the first one of a season so that everybody gets through their quest. That way I can have a more neutral experience when I'm doing mine. Oh God, this season's quest.
And the bait with the Salvage of Salvo, the fucking shader.
Yeah, no kidding. I think what was initially supposed to happen with that, and this is a mild tangent, was that it was supposed to have been related. And that was the initial, plan, and then they just forgot to update that for the shader.
Could you imagine if there's actually an ornament and it's bugged?
Oh. Yeah, I regularly play Iron Banner, and I don't...
That is a very real possibility, real quick. There is nothing saying that is not a thing, especially with how that shader is worded. There is a very real possibility, because we saw it with Point of the Stag.
Yeah.
There are Iron Banner exclusive ornaments. So it is a very real possibility that we are missing an ornament for salvagers.
It is possible. We may have encountered a bug. But yeah, I do play Iron Banner fairly regularly. Mostly to facilitate the pinnacle farm, because it's 5 pinnacles, counting the three game pinnacle from from just playing the 3 games in any Crucible mode, but it's 5 pinnacles in... I can usually get all 4 bounties done in something like 5 games.
Not to mention real quick that if you do get armor from Iron Banner, it's in the higher stat loot pool.
Yeah. I actually had
60s,
a
you can get
replacement.
60s and 65s and shit like that.
I actually have a replacement armor set of Iron Truage that I was preparing in anticipation of next season, my Season of Arrival's armor being sunset at the end, so I needed something to replace it. That actually got me to at least the same stats that I had. And then I was planning on potentially farming more Iron Banner.
I have an Iron Banner helmet that if I put a mod on it, I'll have 36 strength. So it can get up there.
Oh yeah.
But there are still a lot of problems with Iron Banner.
Yeah. The whole really like the whole thing is just kind of messed up and really
can we be brutally honest? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's looking a lot like Saladin, if you catch my drift.
Saladin, the old gruff man who really is obsessed with war, but like can't handle actually being in war.
First of all, Bungie, let's start a petition, please, to anyone that's hear this. Can we fucking bring Rift back, please?
Can we just change the game mode for Iron Banner, if not to Rift?
Can we trash Supremacy and fucking throw Rift in?
Right.
But Iron Banner does need more game modes. Iron Banner rotating, like it did in Destiny 1, was a good thing because it allows for different focuses on different things. If we do, let's say there's 4 game modes. We have Iron Banner Control, Iron Banner Clash, Iron Banner Rift, and say like a point-based game mode / a King of the Hill point-based game mode. That changes how those Iron Banner matches play out. And with Saladin being the whole like, you must adapt on the battlefield to conquer your enemy, that whole bullshit, that fits in perfectly.
The lore actually on Iron Banner being Control from year 1, from year 1 D2, was that he was training us to hold territory better because we lost so much territory during the Red War. That makes sense in lore. If he's training exercises for keeping territory, King of the Hill is a perfect game mode for that.
So is Rift.
Exactly.
Guarding your fucking those are all great game modes. And then say he throws in Clash in there because he talks about how you have to be fierce and you have to be able to fight another Guardian and all this other bullshit.
Right. And we don't mean to necessarily throw shade on Saladin as a character. It's just he doesn't get a lot of development. He doesn't get a lot of development. If you pay attention in those battlegrounds these days...
You might not. I want Space Grandpa to fall off the tower.
He gets called a chicken hawk a lot. Somebody talks a lot about war, but won't actually go fight that war. But if you pay attention in the battlegrounds dialogues, especially the newest one, the one against Ixal, he actually has a lot of forefront and like, oh, he's actually he legitimately knows what he's talking about. Oh, okay. And Osiris even says something along those lines.
I still say that Crow going, I would never want to be one of your soldiers is still one of the best quotes of all time.
I haven't seen that one. I have seen the one a couple of times where Saladin makes
Remind me not to get on your... Crow literally says to Saladin, remind me to never get on your good side.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that one.
But
the one I'm talking about is the one where Saladin says something about about not tolerating anything in the Dark Age, and then Zavala probably not doing so during the Red War, and Crow's response is, so I'm not familiar with the history. What were you doing during the Red War? And then it's silence, and he goes, huh. Must be bad signal. And he's just, like, legitimately genuine about that, and I think that's great, because he's like,
Or Osiris calls him out and is like, what was Aphrodite doing during the Red War?
Yeah. Fighting without her light, despite you saying don't.
212 Cabal and 189 shots. Go Aphrodite. Anyway, the other thing that we need to talk about again, unfortunately, the other thing we have to talk about again, unfortunately, is loot.
Loot is really bad.
Iron Banner's loot is so bad. The armor gets basically its reruns from Destiny 1 or Destiny 2 early game, and the weapons have not changed in God knows how fucking long.
Let's see. The Iron Truage was what was that? Curse of Osiris release. The Iron Fellowship was the first base game release, and then what was the Warmind one? The last time they introduced any new ones.
I can't remember, but
yeah, but those are the 3 armor sets that we have that keep getting recycled. All of Year 2's Iron Banner stuff was Iron Banner ornaments.
Bungie, you cannot keep giving people a game mode and you don't ever change the weapons. Look at Destiny 1 for a minute, okay? Year 1 Iron Banner, Year 2 Iron Banner, Year 3 Iron Banner. You have to change the weapons. You have to change the models, for fuck's sake. Change the archetypes. An Aphrodite Spear and a Way Lorenz are completely different. They might look similar, but they are literally polar opposites in terms of archetype and function. This is a thing that needs to happen. Bungie, please make it happen.
The loot structure needs to change. The game mode needs to change every now and again. It can main control. Control seems to be the main game mode that Bungie is pushing as this is PvP because it's the dead center dot right now. But like, honestly, and this is like we're a zero nobody thing right now. We're literally just starting. This is our first thing. We're already an hour and 5 minutes in almost, but. Kujay is someone I've caught a little bit, and he has a loot system rework that I think would work fantastically. But I'm not going to provide necessarily a summary of it here. You should go over there and watch him give you the idea, because I'm probably going to butcher
content
it.
Creators. Go support content creators. They're out here struggling on that Destiny grind.
Right. Hey, maybe we can get some of that streamer luck now.
Ooh, I know. We're going to get nothing but the wrong exotic with the right stat. No, I'm going to get another 30 Resilience Dragon Shadow. That's what's going to happen.
I'm gonna pull a second God Roll Philo out of nowhere after pulling a God Roll fucking grenade launcher.
Yep. So that is the 2 end game PvP game modes, but let's go even more general here for a little bit. Let's just talk about PvP. Now, something that I think is a very, very big issue as of current is the meta is very volatile. So if you don't know what that means in terms of a FPS gameplay, the word volatile means that weapons have incredibly high highs but incredibly punishing lows. And I think that is so accurate right now.
As
For
a
example,
PvE player trying to take my PvE weapons into PvP, I have to change gear because the PvE equipment just does not perform the way it needs to at the high end to really compete.
Yeah.
I can make it work, but I have to fire first, fire hard, and land every shot. Whereas if I fire first but miss a few shots, somebody's just gonna flip on me and no flinch fucking quick scope my ass with a sniper rifle.
Let's talk about the newest thing that's been bugging Crucible. Dead Man's Tale. That was not intentional. Dead Man's Tale and its catalyst.
The silence says volumes.
I knew this was gonna be a problem because don't get me wrong, in PvE this gun's fucking amazing. Bungie, I love the idea, I love the concept. However, it presents a unique problem in PvP.
In PvP, it is a scout rifle, a long rifle that is the mid-range between an auto rifle and a pulse rifle and a sniper rifle.
It is a 120 hand cannon with a 150 RPM.
Exactly. It is the same strength as a 120 hand cannon, but with its catalyst, it gets a 30 RPM increase, which is 120 rounds per minute versus 150 rounds per minute. And it can self-buff itself. The 120 RPM hand cannon meta right now is 3 shots to the head will kill any Guardian, and 1 stack of Rampage is enough to 2-tap any Guardian that's not 10 Resilience. Or 100 in these days.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that 3 headshots with a Vorpal weapon DMT will kill any super. Any super.
Oh, we found that out, that it's that's That's how powerful it is
Yeah.
with Vorpal.
As someone who has a Vorpal weapon DMT, I can tell you, it's bullshit.
Yeah, because Cranial Spike is a what did we figure it out? It was like a 7% ish
7%?
per stack, and if you land the first two, you're getting ×2, so you're getting a 14% damage increase.
Yeah, it goes 81, 87, 92.
Yeah, and that right there
Some
is,
shit like
is
that.
that right there is well over 200, and 200 is the most health any Guardian, regardless of class, can have, without exotics and overshields.
Mm-hmm. So that's a problem. 120s. There's 4 120s in the game that are actively being used, 2 in the kinetic slot and 2 in the energy slot. One of them is very, very hard to have anymore. It's not in the world drop pool anymore.
What was that? True Prophecy? You can still get them from Gunsmith.
Prophecy. Yeah, you can get them from Gunsmith. It's a lot harder to farm because that's a very inflated pool.
Yes, it is. Very inflated.
But you have True Prophecy, Steady Hand, and your kinetic slot, and you have Bottom Dollar and Igneous as of current in your energy slot. And those are the 120s we have. And holy fucking shit, do they really dictate PvP right now.
And they bring into question if the time to kill, the TTK, is getting too fast, or if Bungie has decided that this is the speed of the game they want. They want a fast-paced PvP experience. They do. But they also have taken things out in the past to slow it back down. And we never really got a clarification on what TTK should be, what their aim is.
Luna's Not Forgotten, Register's Claymore / Broadsword. These were all sunset / toned in some way because TTK was too high. But now we have things like Messenger.
Yeah. The Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten initial thing was that their Magnificent Howl perk was nerfed because it was 2-tapping consistently. You could engage one Guardian and then go on to the next Guardian and 2-tap. And what do we see with 120 hand cannons? Exactly the same thing going on right now.
Exact same thing. And what was the problem with Claymore / Broadsword? You could get one kill and have perpetual Desperado in 6v6. What can you do with Messenger right now? Get one kill and have perpetual Desperado.
And is that what they want now? Is that now too fast? Are they going to tone that back down or take Desperado back out of the pool?
The other thing that Bungie has never answered is Destiny PvP supposed to be gunplay focused or ability play focused?
I think they want it to be both. I think they want it to be the middle ground between the two.
I get that they want that to be both, and I understand that totally. I want that too. The problem that we've never got from Bungie is the answer we've never gotten is it supposed to be that abilities are the main part of your kit and guns are what help you finish kills and complement your abilities? Or is it that they want Guardians in gunfights and abilities are what push advantages to make your gun beat your opponent?
And I think they want to promote both styles is the problem. Is they want to promote the people
That's what it feels like too, because with like some exotics, for example, like Aetherius Embrace, it sounds cool on paper. And it sounds like it'd be a really cool thing for PvP. Like, oh, hey, I can bounce it off a fucking wall in a Titan barricade and hit someone in the forehead. But it doesn't work. Same thing with, like, the new Hunter chest piece. Omnoculus, I think is what's called.
Omnioculus.
Thank you. The damage resistance just doesn't work in theory. You know? Like,
it's a very tiny damage resistance is the problem in PvP. And that tiny damage resistance doesn't even give you an additional survivable shot.
The problem is with Bungie right now in terms of PvP, like, exotic usability, it's either shit or it's too powerful.
There are very few mid-ground exotics.
How many hunters have you seen that immediately took off Dragon's Shadow, which was already broken, and switched straight to Bakris?
See, I never actually gave credit to Dragon's Shadow because I never really understood why the dodge reloading was good, and then I was like, oh wait, you can run the melee recharge dodge and still get the reload.
So you get
both dodges.
You reload all of your guns. You get your melee ability back. You get a plus 30 to mobility and a plus 30 to handling.
Yeah, it was.
It is.
Yeah.
Crazy. So there's that. I mean, warlocks have fucking Ophidian and transversives. Titans have. By the way, Lion Ramparts with DMT gives perfect in-air accuracy on hipfire.
You
Found that out. Found that out yesterday.
Yeah.
So shit like this is too. Here's the issue: if Bungie wants this game to be a super fast-paced TTK, that's fine.
Let it be fast.
I like it to be fast, but if at the end of Season of the Chosen, where Bungie's gonna be like, we're nerfing Desperado. Desperado's gonna get changed for, say, Swashbuckler or some shit like that. 120s are no longer gonna be able to do what they can do. What was the point?
Right.
You know, they claim that, you know, with the auto rifle nerf, that the TTK on 600 RPM auto rifles was too high.
But then we have things like Cold Denial, who can 2-tap with Headseeker.
Exactly. This is the problem. Desperado's so powerful of a perk on Messenger that if you have a magazine perk, or backup mag, you can shoot through a Titan barricade and kill the Titan on the other side reliably.
Yeah.
Because no one expects you to break their barricade that fast.
No, and I think Titans actually don't ever think you're going to just push their barricade. And I'm the player who does push the barricade with anti-barriers and shit, and then their barricade breaks, and then they die because they don't know what to do.
The other thing that we can talk about real quick is the most important thing. This has been an issue in Destiny, and they fixed it really good in D1, and then they fucked us over in Destiny 2. Special economy.
Oh, God.
There is so much special ammo in PvP. It is ludicrous.
Special ammo also is a pretty good breaker of barricades that I don't think anybody ever sees coming, because people forget that they changed it so that special ammo weapons do additional damage to barricades. You can break a barricade with like one shotgun shot, I think, if you're close.
Not to mention the change to goddamn stasis, where you now take an additional 50% damage from special ammo while frozen.
Yeah. And
don't worry,
we'll
talk about
less.
that in a future episode.
Yeah, we'll. Yeah. Stasis is.
We're gonna have a whole episode dedicated to stasis.
We're probably gonna touch on that here in a second, but let's stay on the special ammo.
Very very briefly, and then we'll have a whole episode dedicated to it for PvE and PvP. With special ammo is a problem.
Yeah.
This was a problem in Destiny 1, and this is what created the No Land Beyond Wormwood meta at the end of the game's life cycle, which, I mean, I really didn't mind, but there's way too much goddamn special ammo.
Yeah, and it's too easy to reacquire just by dying.
It needs to go back to the system we had in Destiny 1. Every player starts off with special when you load into the game. And then there's special ammo crate spawns that happen like maybe 2 or 3 times per match in 6v6 game modes, and like maybe once per round in like trials and shit like that.
I would be fine.
And that's it.
I would be fine with that. But I would more like to see the special ammo spawn about twice for every heavy spawn, which is in non-mayhem modes. That's like once every 2 minutes, so you get a special one every minute.
Yeah.
But I mean, personally, I just never run specials. I never graduated from year 1 D2. I still run double primaries in Crucible, and that's fine.
Pleb.
Huh?
You goddamn pleb.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. But I just don't run specials because I don't want to feed the Fellwinters, the Glacioclasms, the Telestos, the Eye of Souls, I don't want to feed the Mountaintops extra ammo because I died and didn't use it.
So,
I feel like that's probably a common sentiment.
Please just fix special ammo. Put it back to what it was in Destiny 1. You're going to have so many people thank you. If you want to have gunfights, it should be primary-based gunfights. Especially with this faster TTK. If you knock specials out of that, it's going to actually be more skill-dependent.
Yeah, because special ammo weapons are just free one-shots.
Basically.
Like, the only time a shotgun's not going to one-shot is if you're outside of its effective range, where you should be using something else anyway. And, I mean, fusion rifles can one-shot it wherever the fuck they want, if you feel like it.
Let's talk about the one thing that's causing a lot of problems in the game right now. Let's talk about stasis for a second.
I think the biggest problem with stasis right now, I'm having fun with stasis in the PvE side of things. I really do enjoy it, and I use it in PvP just because I just don't change off of it when I go to play. But the problem with stasis is stuns and lockdowns are never fun. Never. They're fun for the person doing it. Haha, you can't move anymore, but they're not fun for the person on the receiving end.
We have talked about this before this recording, and we've both come to the conclusion that with Destiny's fast-paced speed, especially with these faster TTKs as of right now, stuns and locks don't work.
No.
They just don't.
No. If this was if Guardians had a larger health pool and it took seconds of concentrated fire from a single source, like 1v1 Guardians were 30-second long fights total because people were just chip damaging and stuff, stuns would be fine. But we're in a current time to kill under a second, where that first shot is the only shot that matters, and if you're stunned and can't return fire, you lose. I never break out of a stasis freeze because of that. Because in any scenario where I am frozen, I am either dead or the person who froze me is dead already, and there's no point to breaking out in a situation where you are not in danger. And when you're in a situation where you are in danger, there's no point to breaking out because you're just going to gimp yourself with 90 free damage.
Yeah. So, I don't think it's... To wrap all this up, this entire hour that we have spent rambling,
almost hour and 20 minutes on PvP.
Yeah, we're and we could go on for a lot longer.
You can probably tell.
There needs to be a lot of changes to the system. Now, we know that Bungie is increasing their team. They're going through a lot. We know that obviously Shmershmona has affected quite a few things. But the thing that hurts the most is that it feels like Bungie's not even giving us a response. So PvP needs a lot of changes, but that doesn't mean that Destiny PvP is bad per se. There's just a lot that has to be done to make it enjoyable for players of all skill levels. Even if I got the trials changes we've talked about tonight, I'd be thrilled.
A more accessible trials loot pool would make me consider playing, but in the current state, I just can't get anything out of it. So I'm, with the luck based of even getting to flawless anymore, maybe I can get 3 wins. Seems like maybe I'll get a win. But
that's where, I mean, we could sit here and rant for hours, obviously, but no one wants to listen to us ramble for 5 hours.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we probably could. I think we have done it on occasion.
We have. We've stayed up very, very late. So next time, we're nearing our close on our first episode of The Traveler's Void. So next time, what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a rotation system. So we're going to do a PvP episode and then a PvE episode, unless it's something that has to cover both. So for example, when we do our stasis episode, we're going to talk about it in both scenarios. Yeah. But next episode, we're going to talk about Grandmasters.
Yeah, Grandmasters and what we feel about like the Adepts and stuff. And since that's gonna probably be available before the Grandmasters are out, it's going to be pre actually getting our hands on them thoughts versus anything else.
And we will address them again later. We'll see how they function, obviously.
That might be the follow-up, the following PvE episode.
The other thing we're going to talk about is KOB and I's massive redesign of every single exotic catalyst in this game. And why most of them are shit.
Yeah, that one's more of a just for fun for us. It's not so much a serious
This is
thing.
not. Yeah, this is not going to be like a PvP episode right now where we're sitting here and we're like, this needs to change and everything else. This is us talking about hey, Destiny would be a shit ton more fun if this was a thing.
And
And
the
then,
goal with making these with our changes to the catalyst, which we'll have to remember when we get to talking about it. But the goal with making these
I got 'em
changes
down.
is making them fun again, versus just, well, this gun gets 10 + 10 stability, and that's it.
We have both agreed that making weapons like DMT, that are fun to use. DMT needs a little bit of tweaking, but making weapons like DMT that are fun to use for everyone on all sides of the community, we want more of that. So we've talked about
As an
at
example,
length.
and a teaser for the episode, for the people who made it to the hour and 22-minute mark, Leviathan's Breath Catalyst. Make it stun all
You want-
champions.
Every single champion.
Break barriers, stun overloads, stagger unstoppables.
Don't take away that increased quiver size too. That's a nice side grade. Nice little upgrade to tease the rest of it.
Now, I feel like that would make Leviathan's Breath a very fun and enjoyable weapon.
One more I'll tease real quick.
Ooh, getting the double teaser.
Yeah, I'll tease one more real quick because it's the one that people usually freak out about when we talk about it. And it's the what's the name of the gun? Hang on.
Shooty shooty bang bang.
No, the goddamn
What's it do?
trying to remember. Give me a minute. Give me a second. I can think of the gun. I'm thinking of it off the top of my head. Hang on. It's the goddamn. Our graviton rework.
Oh, the Graviton Lance. Yeah. I don't remember that one. What was that?
Bigger explosions, bigger darts, and longer travel time.
Oh yeah, the longer lasting travel time on the darts. Oh my god,
Yeah.
those things do not travel at all, hardly.
So that's
What they also need is they need a longer lock on radius, because I've seen it lock on to things that.
I want those bitches to track like Nova Bomb.
I don't know if I want them to track like Nova Bomb, but at least make them track like an Axion dart.
So,
Axion Bolt, because that's the grenade.
Yeah, those are the two teasers you get, and we will convene and go back over them and make sure that we have agreed on all of them again.
Yeah.
But, that is where I think we're gonna leave off for now.
Yes, I think that is a
stop.
good enough place to stop. We went over all the things we wanted to talk about, and clickbaited the title with the trials talking. All right, well then, you want an outro? I don't have anything set up for this like I had the intro.
So next time, we'll talk about all of our favorite exotics, all of our reworks. We'll talk about Grandmasters, see what we can do. But that won't be for probably another week. So please join us next time, and don't be afraid to enter the Traveler's Void.